One of the most controversial things happening in New Jersey is the battle over bail reform. Lawmakers with, well, let's call it good intentions to keep nonviolent criminals back on the street and out of behind bars if they couldn't come up with a couple of $100 for bail. The result of this reform, however, according to many in law enforcement and many victims' families, has led to an unprecedented release of violent criminals back onto our streets in New Jersey. I am joined now by Dog the Bounty Hunter. Dog, welcome back to Chasing News. Beth, Chapman, always good to have you. Mike Donovan, you are part of a lawsuit that is actually suing Governor Christie. I want to get to you in a minute, but I want to introduce Duane Rodgers. Duane, thank you so much for joining us. I know your son, Christian Rodgers, gunned down, 26 years old, and you say that this was entirely preventable. The man accused of killing your son was arrested by state police just 4 days before allegedly taking your son's life. First of all, I'm so sorry for your loss. And thank you for your courage coming here. Dog, let me start with you. You're back in New Jersey. You were here a few weeks ago talking to lawmakers in Trenton saying that something's got to be done. This whole bail reform nonsense. We're not opposed to reforming the bail system, but letting violent criminals out of the streets. It's gone too far.
Absolutely. The Hug a Thug program went far and beyond what it planned to do. So we met with one of the assemblymen who passed the law, who was one of the greatest speakers right after we met with you. And Beth, I about had a heart attack because Beth said, listen, do you think you made the right decision? And that didn't give me a heart attack. And he said, Beth, we did not. And then she said, may I have a letter that says that? And he was like, Beth, absolutely.
They basically came out and said that it wasn't working out and that what they were sold was not how it turned out. That basically they were guaranteed it would be nonviolent, that it was going to be low-lying misdemeanors, and that just wasn't what was happening.
I mean, the idea, right, was somebody that was arrested for some nonviolent crime that couldn't come up with a couple $100 was just not going to spend months, if not longer, behind bars waiting for a trial.
Right, and you know, they went on the premise that, you know, people are pleading guilty just so they can get out. Look, repeat offenders probably commit 50 crimes to the one that you catch them for. There's lots of crimes that are being committed every single day, and we're catching just a small ratio of those people. But to go out and say that people who are victims of these crimes have no rights, have no voice, that they shouldn't be heard whatsoever is an absolute lunacy.
Mike Donovan, your group is behind this lawsuit. You're funding it. Is that how it's working?
That's correct.
Tell me about your organization. Why are you involved in this?
Nexus Curidatis Attorneys, Inc. is the largest pro bono law firm in the country. We started it, I fund it, and it acts sort of as a private attorney general. We go all over the country. We have a civil rights division, and we sue governments who abuse the constitutional rights of their citizens, and nowhere is that clearer than in the case of June and her family, who suffered the ultimate loss because of some arrogant politicians who didn't want to listen to
Beth,
facts.
you've got the lead member of the assembly that pushed this thing through saying this was a mistake. Are they talking about rewriting a bill? Could this be done another way, that the Trenton lawmakers get back together and say, look, here's how we change this, so God forbid this doesn't happen again?
And when we were here last time, we were basically trying to run down Sweeney and, you know, literally
Right,
chasing
the
him. Senate president who
Did he give you any time?
Nope. So the arrogance of not just Chris Christie, but of also Sweeney prevented us from even fixing this.
Guys, joining us now is Alex Shalom from the New Jersey American Civil Liberties Union. Alex, welcome to Chasing News.
Thanks, nice to be here.
So, Alex, you've heard all about this bill and the objections to it, violent offenders on the street, crimes being committed, and at least in one case, an allegation that this bill has caused the death of a young man. What do you say?
I think it's a really reckless position to take. It's a position that ignores the reality of the old system we had. Under the old system, people got arrested, they posted money bail, and sometimes they committed new crime. That happened all the time under the old system. The only difference between this system and that system in terms of public safety is now people like Jules Black can be detained without bail. So Mr. Black is currently detained, a result that wasn't even possible last December. And so let's not pretend that the old system was a fair one. The old system was one that protected public safety. What we need to remember about the old system is there were 1,500 people in jail in New Jersey because they couldn't post $2,500. That's a system that failed individuals, it failed public safety, but it did profit bail bonds people rich.
Our brother here from the ACLU is obviously not a bail bondsman, because if he would have called any bail bondsman in New Jersey, we'd have looked up his record. And because he had 28 arrests, 28 priors, a lot of them with drugs and guns, we would have said, who's co-signing for you? Your mother, your dad, your uncle, your brother. We would check with the neighbors, and we would have made sure that bond was secure. If you are caught owning, possessing, or someone tells us you got a gun, we will come revoke that bond and put you back in jail.
Do you think, Alex, maybe there's a point that's not being discussed, that there is a responsibility when you involve a bail bondsman to actually hold someone accountable? Somebody has a stake in this guy showing up?
The truth, we're not talking just about showing up, though. Let's be clear. We're talking about not committing a new crime. And here's the problem with my friend Mr. Dogg's position here. He says, if he had known this guy never would have posted bail. I guess the question is, what happened the last 27 times with Mr. Black?
Well, and I have the same question of the ACLU. As he just said, Jules Black committed this crime on April 9th. It was 4 months after the law went into effect. And so if this were correct, and Alex, I'm sorry, I have to disagree with you, they already had the discretion under the new law to hold Jules Black when they knew that he had 28 times been in jail, that he had, at least 12 gun charges. He had been caught with a 9mm just 4 days before, but the 4 days before was so important because they had the ability to hold Jules back in, but the faulty product that we were sold said that he was a low risk and released him from liability. Now, second fold to his 1,500 people languishing in jail is a fake number. It is a false statement, and I'll tell you why. Because most people, excuse me.
Wait, hold on 1 second, Alex. Go ahead.
And I do want to hear everything that you have to say, Alex.
So Beth, why is it fake news?
Because a lot of people were not being held solely for a minor misdemeanor. They had probation violations. They had holds from other counties. Other detainers, they could not have bonded
anyway. So you're
anyway.
saying the 1,500 number may be true, but it's this idea that it's only because of not being able to
when
post
they
the
whittled
bond.
that 1,500,
that's what you're saying.
when they whittled the 1,500 people down, it was actually something like 42 people were actually being held
Alex,
without other detainers.
How do you address that, and how do we answer that? I mean, why is the ACLU not behind some kind of a reform that would just address that small number of people?
It's not all or nothing. The only people who think it's all or nothing are the people who profited richly from the old unfair system. Here's the thing. They can call it fake news all they want. This is a statistic that has been cited by the New Jersey Supreme Court. It is a widely reputable statistics.
What you're doing instead is you're taking away a private industry opportunity, and what you've done is you've created a situation that allows the child of June Rodgers to be murdered. But at the end of the day, when law enforcement and the Attorney General backlash because they're not going to stay on that limb with you, Alex, what will ultimately happen is that more people, like New Jersey Weedman, for example, will be detained and not able to post bond and not able to come out at all.
As a member of the ACLU, what about the constitutional right to have bail?
There isn't a constitutional right to have bail. There's a constitutional right to not have excessive bail. New Jersey used to have a constitutional right to money bail. But what these guys want is a constitutional right to continue to pay your way out of supervision.
Alex, listen, we got to wrap it up there. I got to leave it there. I do appreciate your passion on this issue. We want to have you back, and I'd like to continue this conversation because I suspect this is not over. The real question is for you. What is this bail reform? Do these politicians really have blood on their hands? You decide. Let me know. Hit me up on Twitter @BillSpadia. Hit the show up @ChasingNews. Thank you, guys.